We have a couple things we got to get done. This is Tuesday. This is one of the busiest days at Mountaineer Boys State. We have got to get our general elections done. We have got to get some officers in place so you guys can run your state government tomorrow. We have to build everything so that you guys are ready to take control of Boys State tomorrow, because that's what's going to happen. So we have a lot of stuff that we have got to get accomplished in a short amount of time. So you guys need to move fast and try to keep up with me, okay? First, we're going to have a speaker. After that, we're going to have the coin toss to see who goes first for the debate tonight. And then after that, you guys will all be going to the assembly hall, where you will receive your court instruction and legal instruction that you need. So first, let me introduce to you guys Auditor McCuskey. He was born in Clarksburg. He graduated from George Washington High School. Is anybody here from George Washington High School? Oh, you guys don't want to clap or cheer, you're just going to raise your hands? That's whatever. Do whatever. Go, school spirit. He served on the House of Delegates on multiple committees and has been our auditor for the past 3 years. If you want to read more about him, his full bio is in your newspaper. And right now we'll bring up Mr. McCluskey.
It's all right, GW guys. You'll get clapped for later too. Hey, thank you guys for having me. You guys having a fun week? Yeah? That's good. I like that. Hey, so in my speech, I'm going to ask you guys some questions. And if you want to raise your hand, you can. If you want to just shout out answers, you can. But I need there to be some give and take. Are you guys okay with that? Yeah. All right, cool. So let me tell you guys, I'm going to start off by telling you a little bit about the auditor's office, which is pretty boring. So then I'll start off really boring and put you to sleep, and then I'll hopefully wake you back up afterwards. But does anybody here know what the auditor's office does? Audit? So did I hear somebody say audit stuff? We kind of do that. Anybody else got any other ideas? We actually don't do taxes. We don't. That's the tax department. Say that again. Yes, we do that. We make sure the finances are in check. So you guys are sort of getting about a half of it. So the auditor's office on a state level is in charge of spending every dollar that the state has. So we process about 150,000 payments a week. And it's our job to make sure that the payments are legal and that they're coming from the right fund and that they're not fraudulent. That's about 10% of our job. Do any of you guys know who Bernie Madoff is? Bernie Madoff was a guy who stole a bunch of money in a Ponzi scheme. And my office is actually the Securities Commission for the state of West Virginia too. So we actually have dudes with badges and guns and cop cars who go out and arrest people who take advantage of mostly elderly people in stock schemes. Does anybody here know what the land commissioner does? Commissions land? Almost. So if you don't pay your taxes on your property, it gets sold at the courthouse steps. Anybody ever heard of that? So our office is in charge of selling all the property that gets sold in the courthouse steps in West Virginia. Guess how many pieces of property we sold last year? 60,000 pieces. 60,000. So pretty much everybody here goes to public school, right? Yeah. No, some private school people, that's fine. Where does public school get its money from? Property taxes, that's right. So if our office isn't out there selling these properties that the taxes aren't being paid on, who doesn't get money? Schools, that's right. That's why that's important. It sounds sort of lame and boring, but it's not. It's actually really, really important. We are in charge of auditing all of the cities and counties, and this is sort of where the office gets a little more interesting. So we created a fraud unit, and has anybody ever told you guys that there is no waste or fraud in government? You guys ever heard that? I hear it all the time. It's a lie. There's a ton of waste and fraud in government, more than there ever should be. We opened up 51 felony fraud cases just this year. 51 felony fraud cases just this year. We put a lady in jail last week. We put a lady in jail in Wheeling a couple of months ago. The lady in Wheeling stole $100,000 from the city of Wheeling and in a month, and she actually stole $10,000 while she was in handcuffs. The FBI said to me when we were doing the investigation with the FBI that they had never seen anybody steal money while in handcuffs with the FBI. It was actually a pretty wild scheme. She was skimming money off the top of the payroll and depositing it directly into her bank account. So the point being here is that there's no such thing as a small fraud. There's only frauds that we find quickly. If you don't stop people from stealing, they will keep stealing. And they'll steal and steal and steal and steal and steal and steal until you don't have anything left. Have any of you guys seen any of the news reports about the frauds that we've worked on this year? Anybody? No? They're out there. Just Google them. It's amazing the kind of person that typically does this. You've all met them. It's somebody who really sucks up to their boss and then puts their thumb right on top of the person below them. So the people who work below them are scared of them, but the people above them think that they hung the moon. It's a pretty interesting dynamic, but the long and the short of it is we've recovered somewhere in the neighborhood of $1 million of fraud that has been perpetrated against the cities and counties and school boards of the state. It's brutal. Don't be that guy, right? How many of you guys want to get into public service? Just 2? There's got to be more. 5? You guys are all here. It should be all of you, right? Why don't you want to do public service? No money? Yeah, you want to make a lot of money? Well, the only way you can make a lot of money in government is if you steal it. Oh, that's right. So that's a little bit about what the auditor's office does. We have about 300 people, 250, Jeff, that work for us, give or take, plus Oasis. We have over 200 people that work in our office. It fluctuates. I should probably know a little better, but I think we're the largest constitutional office in the state. And you know, when I got elected to this office, I was 35 years old. And what that says to me about West Virginia is that if you're a young person and you want to be successful and you want to take a leadership role and you want to stand out, I don't think there's a better place you can go than West Virginia. I mean, how many of you guys want to leave? That's a lot of you all. I hate that. I hate that. Why do you want to leave? Let's do hands on this one. I actually want to hear the answers. You want to travel? You want to come back? Yeah, travel and leave. But you want to go to school somewhere else? Do you want to come back? Maybe. That's better than no. Anybody over here? You?
College I wanted to go to that state.
Well, that's okay. Do you want to come back?
Definitely, my family here.
Okay, well then you're not really leaving. You're just going away to school. You. That's the best reason I've heard. Congratulations. Are you going to come back? So one of my other chiefs of staff, both of his sons are Naval Academy grads. One is the commander of SEAL Team 7, and the other is the second in command on a nuclear submarine. So you end up at the Naval Academy, you're going to do great things. It's awesome. And we want you back. Who else? You. Which industry is that? Why do you think it's not here? Well, I have 70 in my office. We run. Sure. Have you thought about starting your own IT business? Yeah? Yeah. The long and the short of it, guys, is this. You guys are all at Boise State for a reason, right? At the very least, you love West Virginia. And I understand that we don't do a very good job of making West Virginia appealing to somebody who wants to be in IT, or the Naval Academy's not here, right? And you gotta travel, right? You gotta get outside of West Virginia. You gotta go see other places. The college you wanna go to is not there. But what I'm telling you is that you gotta come back. If what you love is West Virginia, it's time for us to stop saying from Charlotte, or from Raleigh, or from Washington, D.C., or from St. Louis, or whatever the name of the city is that you leave to go from. Man, I loved that place. I hate hearing that. People talk about how amazing West Virginia was. I think it's time we start talking about how amazing West Virginia is going to be. Because the only way that that future becomes a reality, the only way that we can build the West Virginia that we want to have, is if you all come back. You cannot have a state that's full of old people. You just can't have it. When I was a kid and you sat out on your front porch, there were 50 kids riding their bike down the street every single night in the summertime. You can go to any neighborhood in West Virginia right now and go sit on your front porch and you won't see kids riding their bike down the street because there aren't any kids left. We have the lowest number of millennials of any state in the country by 25%. That's terrifying. And that's one of those statistics that snowballs. And what I know is that West Virginia is in a place in its history where we can rebuild it into any way that we want. We had a $300 million budget surplus this year. We had a $300 million budget surplus this year. Budget surpluses are great. What that means is that we've stabilized. It does not mean that we've fixed a single problem, because we haven't. The problems still exist, they just exist with money. What that means is that we have an opportunity to rebuild West Virginia, to make it look like we want it to look like. What do you guys want West Virginia to look like? I know what I want it to look like. Say that again? Let's do hands again. I want to hear the answer to this question. Yeah. Beautiful. What would make it beautiful in your eyes?
Clean state parks, clean up any trash in general.
So actually clean.
Not only that, but help with the drug epidemic.
Drug epidemic's a huge deal. Yes? Infrastructure meaning what? We've got $1 billion just sitting there waiting to do that. And we'll spend it one day, but you're right. People want infrastructure. They want parks. They want beautification. Yes, sir.
We need to draw more businesses here.
And what kind of businesses do you want to draw here?
Some renewable, coal's great, but we can't depend on coal forever.
Interesting. So renewable energy?
Anything really that we can.
Yeah. So diversification, meaning not dependent on coal. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yes, sir. Professional sports team? How many Herd fans we got in here? How many Mountaineer fans we got in here today? I was going to say we already got a professional football team in Morgantown, baby. Boo. Probably, and so if we need a professional sports team, what do we need? We need a big city, right? You got to have a big city to have a sports team. Yeah? So urbanization of one of our areas, that's huge. Yes, sir. Say that again? An Ivy League school? They're not allowed to have any more of those. They capped it at 9. But we've got the Ivy League of Buchanan. We got Wesleyan, right? No. Yeah. Better schools. What's going to make our schools better? Huh? Pay the teachers? That's a great idea. The money's there too. So if you go on the West Virginia Auditor's website, we released a report of all 55 county school boards audits for the last 10 years, put together. Guess how much money they have in reserve? Actually, it's pretty close. It's $850 million. $850 million. How would you propose we found funding to pay the teachers more? And how much should we pay them? Huh? You don't think you don't know what specific salary, just more? They deserve more, you're right. So better schools, more teacher salaries? Yes, sir. I agree with that completely. And I think where we've gotten, especially on education, if you look at this report, and it's available to the public, guys, we spend a lot of money on overhead. We spend a lot of money on having schools, and we don't put a lot of money into the schools. Does that make sense? You understand what I'm saying? So I think if we can make our actual educators a priority, I think we can really get that job done. Let's go all the way in the back with the beard. Legalization of hemp for textiles and clothing? What about just the whole pull? I'm not saying yes or no, but I mean, that's a question, right? 26 states, I believe, have legalized marijuana in one form or another, and West Virginia is now one of them. Medical marijuana was legalized in West Virginia 2 years ago. Interesting fact about that, they actually legalized medical marijuana in West Virginia in 1981 as well. And we were the first state to have legal medical marijuana, and they re-illegalized it in, I believe, 1996. But most people don't know that. Yes, sir, black shirt. And what does that mean? Yeah, I agree. So, I mean, I think the argument you're making for is community schools. Less consolidation. Schools closer to families, keep the communities together. I'm 1,000% for that. Yes, sir. Open-minded culture? How do we do that? Well, I agree with you. What I was getting ready to say is the people who are the most open-minded are the people who are 17 years old. And if all the 17-year-olds leave, we're never going to get open-minded, are we? So you got to come back. That's one of the best arguments for staying here. Let's go. You already did. You. I love that answer. So my wife and I have a small business. So we have a clothing store. You might not notice by looking at me, but I am the purveyor of fine women's fashions. If you guys need any dresses or anything, hit me up afterwards. I can hook you up. But West Virginia is an absolutely unbelievable place to start a business. And some people don't realize this, but the difference between West Virginia and other places is the community actually cares about its businesses. If you move to Baltimore or Pittsburgh or Charlotte or one of these places and you go open up a business, nobody in Baltimore, Charlotte, or Pittsburgh is going to give a crap about you and your business, right? But for my wife and me, if one of our kids gets sick, our neighbors will come over and watch her, right, so that she can get to work. People will pay more to shop in our store because they want to make sure it's successful. And I think that the culture of West Virginia, particularly as it pertains to small businesses, gets lost, right? Our culture is so conducive for people to have ideas and to be successful that we don't sell that enough, right? It's not just about dollars and cents here. It's about a family and a community. And I think that there's a whole group of people in this world who are really looking for that, and I think we should try to sell that more. But I think that is the absolute key, is new small businesses started by people that are your age. Yes, sir. More draw-in for larger companies. Also a great plan. What would be your idea for that? Sure, no, I mean, it's not easy, right? People talk about tax incentives, site selection. There's a million reasons, right? And I think what we have here that is so unique in the marketplace is that we have people who show up to work, right? And so we have a workforce that is being, who mentioned the drug crisis over here? The drug crisis is absolutely depleting our workforce. There's no question about it. But the other thing that we have is, if you're a socially minded corporation and you want to change the fate of an entire state in one fell swoop, you can do it here. 10,000 jobs changes West Virginia forever. It doesn't change California forever. It doesn't change Texas forever. It doesn't change North Carolina forever. But if you put a 10,000 person factory in the middle of West Virginia, our collective fates are bettered forever. So I think what we need to start doing is talking to people about, hey, if what you want to do is showcase your brand and say, look, we here at the Ford Motor Company are so invested in the American worker that we're willing to go to a state where we might not have otherwise gone because we want to change their fate. I mean, what a cool message that would be, right? The ads would write themselves for the rest of time. You could show a coal miner jumping in an F-150, driving, down some back road in McDowell County and say, look, we built this here because we wanted to make sure that this guy had a future. I think that's a cool message. I think that's something we could sell. Yes, sir. I think that's insanely important, because what are we if not the most beautiful place to come hunt and fish, right? That's what we are. So how do we do that? So we need to take that idea and balance it with that idea, right? Because there's competing ideas there, right? We need to make sure that we're keeping our parks clean, and we need to make sure we're drawing in large businesses, but we also need to make sure that we are the birthplace of rivers, and that our water is the cleanest on earth, the best on earth, and the best place to vacation on earth. And the reason I asked you guys all these questions, and I've done this before, and this was the best one we've ever had, thank you. Give yourselves a round of applause. It's easy to sit back and say, West Virginia's not doing very well, right? But until you start thinking about the unbelievably huge job it is to make this place better, I mean, we just spent 10 minutes with 400 people coming up with ideas, right? Think about if all of us sat around together and did this more often. But it's not just easy. It's not just saying we need more business, we need more small business, we need to make the waterways clean. Everything ties in together. And we need to have one collective vision. And to me, that collective vision starts with this. So one of the things that I find the most frustrating about being in government is if you go to Myrtle Beach and you're walking down the beach and you see somebody with a WVU hat on or a Marshall hat on or something, and you're like, oh, are you from West Virginia? You will immediately become friends. No one asks what party you're in, what part of the state you're from, what do you think about X, Y, and Z political thing. You're just from West Virginia, and we're friends now. And we're going to go have a beer, and we're going to hang out, and we're going to talk about how awesome West Virginia is. If you take those same two people and stick them in the Capitol, and they happen to be on different sides of one issue, they will hate each other. That's insane. That is insane. And what I'm saying is that our collective love and admiration for each other needs to stop only being evident when we're talking about things we agree on. And it needs to start being evident when we're talking about things we disagree on. Because only through disagreement do we ever find the solution to our problems. I have an office full of people. I'm the first Republican auditor in 60 years. 60 years. But what I was going to say is, guess how many Republicans I hired? I don't even know. I don't ask. I had a staff full of people who knew what they were doing. I kept them all there. They were all hired by a Democrat, but they are good at their jobs. And Jeff, what do we get into every day? We fight in our office like you wouldn't believe. Because I want my employees to come and tell me their opinions. I want to know what I'm doing wrong. I want to know what the other side of the aisle thinks. Because I can't come up with what I'm supposed to do if I immediately discount somebody else's opinion because they disagree with me. That's crazy. If science did that, we wouldn't have medicine. If the military did that, we wouldn't have any of the advances we have. Period. So why do we do that in politics? I have absolutely no idea. But we need to stop. And let me finish by just saying this. So we live in a state that has literally unlimited potential. But we are never going to out Texas, Texas. We're never going to out Virginia, Virginia. We're never going to out California, California, right? We can't be better than them at anything because we're small, because we're dependent on the different resources and different industries. So what we have to do, how many people in here follow baseball? Yeah, a lot of people. We're a small market baseball team. We can't go buy free agents. We have to figure out a different way. If we want to be successful, we have to be more nimble, more creative. We have to be more flexible. We have to push the boundaries of what other people have tried before. And so what I'm calling on all of you all to do, which we already did today, right? We sat here and we came up with ideas on how to fix this place just off the top of our heads. We need to be the best state in the country at innovation, particularly in government. What are we going to do to set ourselves apart from our competitors? What are we going to do to say to Ford Motor Company, this is where you want to be, and here's why? And it can't be because we have better sites. It can't be because we're closer to cities. It can't be because we have better roads. That's what all the other people can say. But it can be because of you guys are getting ready to come up with these ideas. But the point of this entire story is West Virginia's story is not going to end the way that we all want it to if you guys leave. It can't. You are 400 young men who made the conscious decision to spend a week of your life learning about government. Right? That means that you are the people who have to end up leading the state. I was just telling the guys at the table I was sitting with here, I actually didn't get to go to Boise State. I had to go play in a sporting event, and as it turns out, I wasn't all that good at sports, so I ended up getting into politics. I probably should have gone to Boise State. But what I'm saying is you have self-selected yourselves as leaders. And what we need you to do, what the grown-ups in West Virginia need you to do, is to be leaders. To stand up and say, I'm going to stay in West Virginia. It's not exactly what I want, but I'm going to make it exactly what I want. I'm going to make it exactly what I want because you're not going to get that opportunity anywhere else. You do not have a blank canvas. You do not have a piece of clay that you can mold with your own hands anywhere else in this world. But right here you do. So imagine where you want to live and make West Virginia that place. That's what I implore of all of you. I'm going to stick around. Do you guys have any questions? I hate to speak without answering questions. I know I used to always hate it when people wouldn't answer questions. So anything you guys got. The great thing about the auditor's office is I know what everybody else is doing. Yes? How could you well, there's all kinds of ways you can foster change if you don't want to get in government. Be a teacher. Start a charity. Start a daycare. Start a food bank. Start a political movement. What do they say? All change starts at home. You figure it out. I don't know how to use the internet that well. You guys do. I mean, the whole world is going to be so different in 10 years. There won't even be political ads on TV, right? So all of this change is going to happen in a way that we probably can't even contemplate. But it can happen. You don't have to be in politics. Yeah. I mean, probably not. To be quite honest with you, I don't know that we're ever going to have a city that's big enough for that. We have minor league teams. I'm not 100% sure that is my vision for West Virginia. Isn't necessarily bigger, it's better at what we are. Does that make sense? And so I sort of see West Virginia being the best little state in the country. And I think we spend all this time trying to be big and big and big, and that gets in the way of having clean rivers, right? I mean, the big isn't always great. And I think what we can be is really great at being small. And then we can just drive to Pittsburgh and go see the Pirates play. Or the Reds for all you Cretan Reds fans, but I'm going to go see the Pirates. Yes, sir. Well, the executive branch raised the budget estimates and spent it. So if they hadn't done that, 60% of it would have gone into rainy day and 40% would have gone into the pensions, I believe, is what statutorily the money that is left over goes to. But if you change the budget estimate in the middle of the year, you're able to spend it within the budget year. Yes, sir. So I'm going to put in a shameless plug for my office's website. We created this thing called West Virginia Checkbook. I urge all of you to go on it. It's wvcheckbook.gov. It shows you how we spend every single penny of state dollars in real time. So if we buy a car on a Monday morning, it's on the website on Wednesday morning. And it shows you who bought the car, how much they paid for the car, where they bought the car, what fund it came from, what agency bought it. But it also shows you all of, on a total breakdown. We spend about half our money in education, about half our money on healthcare. And to be quite honest with you, we don't spend that much on hardly anything else. I mean, when you go in and look at the pie, it's unbelievable what percentage goes to those two things. I think it was $3.2 billion on education last year. It's a lot. It's not nothing. But here's the question. We always say this is how much we spent. But did anybody ever ask how much we should have spent? I've never heard anybody ask that question. the money gets allocated, but I don't ever see anybody coming back and saying, we spent this much and here's why. And that's what the website's for. That way you can tell them why. It's your money, right? Yes, sir. Where do I think West Virginia education needs to go? I think I'm going to go back to a concept I just spoke about before. I think we spend a lot of time trying to compare ourselves to other places. And I think what we need to do is figure out what we want our education system to look like. And I'm not sure we have that right now. What is the best way for West Virginia to educate West Virginia students? I don't think we're doing it now, and I don't think we're asking that question. I think we're saying, what is the best way Ohio's educating their kids, and what's the best way Kansas is educating their kids, and what's the best way Florida's educating their kids? And that might or might not be the way that we need to educate our kids. I think we need to quit worrying so much about what other people think about us and do what is best for us. And I think a lot of that starts with community schools. I think school consolidation, while good financially, is very bad for communities. And I think it's particularly bad for elementary school kids. Yes, sir. I'm for charter schools. Where I went to college, we had a charter school. My college had a charter school. I went to George Washington University in Washington, D.C. And my college had a charter school. And the kids who went to that high school, they ate lunch with us every day. And they were actually kind of our age, right? Now that I think back on it, it was, I'm enough older now that I realize that there's not that much difference between 20 and 16. But the difference between where they went to school at the charters, and they're not some magic bullet, right? But I do think that they can offer some opportunities that we don't have now. But I don't know that they need to be held onto some pedestal to where it's going to change everything. There's a systematic change that needs to happen that's so far beyond what charters are that I don't know that. I think it could be a good thing to have in some places. Well, I mean, that is school choice. I think probably the better option, or the most important thing we can do, is start to allow kids to go to school across county lines. There's a lot. And anybody here from Pocahontas County? Yes. How long does it take you to get to school? I didn't hear you. I'm sorry, sir. Oh. Oh, sorry. Who is from Pocahontas County? Anybody? Pocahontas County has one high school. It's also the biggest county in West Virginia. There's kids that get on the bus at like 6 in the morning to go to school, and they don't get home till 6 at night. Would you play football? I wouldn't. I mean, it's impossible. And so we make all these. Do I need to tie it up? Okay. They're asking questions. At the end of the day, I feel like kids. We need to start. Let me finish the end of your question. I think education reform. We need to stop starting sentences with anything other than this is what's going to help students. And I think there's a lot of adults that make decisions for adults, and it's not necessarily student-centered. And I think if we can get that to be the complete focus of all education reform, it'll go a lot further. Hey, guys, I really appreciate y'all's time. A couple of y'all mentioned you had a longer question. I'll wait out on the porch for you guys for a little while. Who's running for auditor? You look awesome. I don't even know you. Who else? Both of you guys. Good luck. And I'll hopefully see you all on Thursday, okay? I think I'm going to get you guys to come by the office when you come down to the Capitol. So thank you all very much. Have a wonderful rest of your week.